That's tyranny. That is tyranny. Men are just pigs. Men don't report that. They don't. They get beat up by their woman, and if they tell their friends about it, their friends laugh at them.
Welcome to the King's Men Podcast, changing lives for the kingdom of God, becoming a better producer, protector, and provider for your family. Because pain is just weakness leaving the body. Exclusive insight and commentary for the Christian male. Change your life. Live better lives. Become a happy man. Roar like the lion you are. Now, let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Kingsman Podcast. I'm also doing some live streaming, or not live streaming, but this is a pre-recorded video that will be on YouTube as well. I've watched a lot of other guys who are doing this same thing in order to diverse their base out, and I wanted to try the same thing. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about female SJW hypocrisy, or it could be really understood as just feminism hypocrisy itself. And I gotta tell you, ladies out there, I gotta tell you, you have timed feminism perfectly. You really have. I mean, you think about it. For the last 5,000 years, people were living together. Men were hunting for large animals like buffalo, and they were risking their lives in order to provide for their family. They were doing all of these hard things. And the women, oh yeah, they were just very content to sit back and say, oh, we'll just pick the berries and we'll handle some of the easy things. But now all of a sudden, as soon as we get air conditioning in our offices, all of a sudden we have to go feminism, full out everything. And I just wanted to look at some of the hypocrisies that really underline the feminist movement today. But first, let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the news today, because there are a lot of things going on in the news that are relevant to you, the Christian male, who is taking charge of your life. Now, this first article is from the Daily Mail from the UK. Male coronavirus patients with low testosterone levels are more likely to die from COVID-19, a German hospital finds. Now, if you go through the article, you will see many things on there that are very interesting. Just a study of the different males and the females that have been studied during the time that they had the COVID-19, and more men are dying because they have low testosterone levels. Now, if you don't know this, guys, there is a worldwide epidemic. I mean, it is an epidemic of men with low testosterone. The average handshake, the pounds per square inch of a handshake between men, has decreased since the 1980s. Now, for me personally, I believe that it has to do with all the soy and all that garbage that they put into our foods. And this is why I feel better today at 48 years old than I did whenever I was in my 20s. I can do more things physically at 48 years old. Why? Because I got rid of all that garbage and I've cleaned up my diet. It's mostly carnivore. I have a cheat day one day a week, but I'm sticking to mostly carnivore. And I feel... Now, I don't have the test to prove this. My last testosterone levels were 399, and that was a year ago, almost to the date. And today, I feel much better than I did over a year ago. I'm less tired. The muscles are improving. My workouts are improving. I'm doing better, all because of the carnivore diet. And that's at least what I attribute it to. But men, you have to watch out for your testosterone levels, because the coronavirus, your immune system depends on your testosterone, and you are at greater risk if you're not producing the testosterone that a man needs. So something for you to consider, guys. This next one is out of the New York Post. Now, transgender athletes, they're just dominating all of the sports. And now the legal system is siding with them. Women are now complaining greatly about what seems to be unfair, because they were born a man and they were born with greater physical attributes than women were, bigger muscle density than women have, and failed to open. Wow. But they were born with all of these. They were born with all of these advantages, and they're competing in female sports, especially like in the MMA. My goodness, you just given a license to go in and pummel another woman in the MMA. It is ridiculous. Now, this next one, Gateway Pundit. You need, in the state of Washington, you need an ID to eat, but not to vote. The Washington governor has decided that in his tyrannical power, he thinks it's a good idea that people should, if you go to a restaurant to eat, that you are going to have your ID looked at. The information is going to be written down, so they have your name, your address, they have all your contact information, so that they know that you resided at that restaurant. Now, of course, you're thinking to yourself, well, you kind of need this information, so if somebody else in that restaurant had the coronavirus, then other people can be informed and monitored and everything like that. But here's the problem. Once the government gets power, it doesn't give it up. You have to remember that. Let me take a swig here. Now, you think about what's going on in China. They collect all that information from facial recognition cameras everywhere you go and all of the things that you do, and then they base your credit score based on their algorithm to say, hey, you're not worthy of having a credit score just because you went to this restaurant, or you went to that part of town, or you frequented this establishment. Now, that's tyranny. That is tyranny. Now, under the disguise of safety and security and helpfulness, governments take away your rights slowly, one notch at a time. And that's what I see happening here. Again, this is from the Gateway Pundit, and the states have to be very careful. We cannot allow this to happen. We just can't. And so, on to feminism. Feminism bases its entire idea on, hey, women are victims, women are being discriminated against, men are. Guys, you know how this feels. Hey, that men are just pigs. Men don't know how to treat women correctly. It's not really that in this day and age, men are waking up to the severe problems that our society have. And men are being more cautious and very careful. The Me Too movement has done so much destructive damage to our society that I don't know if we can ever really recover from it. So let's take a look at a couple of things here. Like, do only men objectify women? Okay, do only men objectify women? Whenever you think about, like, the billboards that you see along the highway and you see this very skinny woman, other women are also looking at that, and they're comparing themselves to what they see up there. So they are objectifying another woman in order to be a standard for themselves. Now, yes, in America, there is this massive porn problem that does exist. So let's talk about porn just for a moment, because porn is objectification of women. Men are looking at women. Men desire that. Let's not beat around the bush. It is a huge addiction inside of our society. What is porn? It's the use of media to produce a lustful sensation in order to pursue sexual gratification, whether it's achieved or not. Okay. Now let's take a look at that definition. And this is the way I worded it all together. This is not like Webster's definition. It is the use of media to produce a lustful sensation in order to pursue sexual gratification, whether it's achieved or not. So there's some interesting things. Now, we all know that, hey, there's tons of websites out there that have porn for men, and we see that the statistics are also growing for women. Women are watching porn more as well, but for different reasons, I think. Now, I want you to think about this just for a moment. Women, under this definition, the use of media to produce a lustful sensation. What media do women use to produce a lustful sensation? Now, when you look at what happened with the Ashley Madison scandal and the number of women that were listed on there, a number of them were married women. They were having affairs. And they even came back and said they loved their husbands, but they just wanted something extra. That is a lustful sensation. And when you consider some of the printings of romance novels in the Western culture, and the billions and billions of dollars industry that is media being used to produce a lustful sensation within a woman, and those are the demographics of the people who buy those things. So there is a porn for men that is generally for men, and then there is porn for women as well. So there is a porn for women. Also, now in the CNN.com has this 2018 article, and on the video I have it linked, but I want to read a couple of things from this article. It says, indeed, studies have shown that Indeed, studies have shown that more than a third of married women who have sex outside their relationship describe their marriage as happy or very happy. And the article links the studies that it's getting the information from. Continuing, the quote from this article, other research detailed in Alicia Walker's book, The Secret Life of the Cheating Wife, on women who use the internet to find affair partners show that they do so primarily for sex. So again, that definition applies. People are looking for that lustful sensation. That's exactly what they're looking for. Now, this brings us to a bunch of myths that our society seems to believe about women, like that women are less sexually adventurous than men. Now, I'm studying this pretty closely just myself. There's a lot of guys in the manosphere that say that women are even hornier. I'm going to use that word. Women are hornier than men. Now, I disagree with that. I do disagree with that. There's a lot of studies that say that men have at least a 16% or more percentage more testosterone in their bodies than women do. So the problem then arises that, and testosterone is the sex hormone for either gender. It doesn't really matter. So I think that women have their sexual psychology is based upon sexual competition. They're competing for the best genetics in males. This is why a lot of the studies in the manosphere say that 80% of the women always go after 20% of the men. And you will see over and over again that a woman will share an alpha rather than take a beta. And we see this redundant over and over and over again. So I think that women are just more sexually competitive when it comes down to that than they are what we would call horny for males. So, but this means, so what does the studies show about women being adventurous? Now, a lot of guys in the manosphere, you know it, women will do double monkey backflips. To coin the phrase from another YouTuber that I really enjoy, Coach Adams. Now, this same article from CNN says that research suggests that women in their 20s are quite sexually adventurous. In one recent study, they were twice as likely as their male peers to go to a swingers party, dungeon, or other sex function. These are some of the newer studies coming out, and in a lot of the studies that you look at, that you read through and you research, you're going to see that we don't know. We actually just have no idea of the percentage of women that cheat on a married relationship, because women are less likely to talk about it or to reveal it, where men tend to brag about such things. Another myth that we have is that the myth of monogamy is easier for women. It's just not true. The article says, for instance, women who have low sexual desire and are in long-term relationships admit they still feel lust for new partners. Other studies have found that women's bodies respond to a wider variety of sexual stimuli than do men. And in studies of primates, the single most observable preference among females is the novel male partners. A new guy comes in. This makes a pretty persuasive case that that women struggle with monogamy at least as much as men do, and likely more, says Martin, the author of the book that they're citing in this article. The article also goes on to say that in a separate study, Mark and I conducted on sexual adventureness. There's a link in the article to sexual adventureness. It's very, very fascinating. We found that women were significantly more likely than men to engage in a wider variety of sexual activities, indicating that women are perhaps more sexually open than society often constructs them to be. And what we see here is there is a difference between female morality and male morality. And you have to understand something, because when society struggles to change culturally, it's usually the men that are preventing it. Women have a tendency to accept a lot of things very easily. And I can't understand their perspective behind it, because behind every culture is a tradition that is rooted in some kind of a principle, generally. And a lot of people, they just so easily want to accept, hey, let's have an open mind. Let's just do things this way instead. And then 30 years later, when society falls apart because of it, like what the ramifications that we're having from the 60s right now, we're dealing with right now, all of a sudden they think, oh, maybe Dr. Spock wasn't right in the way that we should have raised our child. And if we were less accepting of those open mind ideas, our society probably would have been better off in the long run. So men are kind of wired to accept the tribe's morality a lot more stubbornly, where women, they are more open and they accept these things and they just go with the flow. There was a great show called Brain Games, and I think it's on Netflix now. I think it was many years ago. It was on National Geographic or the Learning Channel or something like that. And one of the episodes they had, it was men versus women. And one of the things they said was the downfall of men was because men don't accept social changes. What they had a mother and her son walking around a mall looking for a hat, and the boy's hat was this bright pink, sparkly hat that a guy would never give to his son. And so, the psychologists in that show, they said that men lack in this area, therefore females are superior in their accepting of new ideas and of non-social norms. The problem is, what are we teaching that kid? Are we passing down those traditional values from before? Is this kid going to grow up to be a crybaby? Is this kid going to grow up to be a soy boy? Is this kid going to grow up to be weak? And what are we seeing today? We're seeing this massive amount of men who they have a beard, but they can't change a tire. Well, I tell that person, you need to shave. Okay? But this is the way that our world is going today. men need to be men, and men need to stand up, and men need to take responsibility for themselves. Now, all right, from the Cosmopolitan, let's take a look at a couple of articles here and let's compare. Yes, men who objectify women are also more likely to assault them. Wow, they're more likely to assault them. So what this article is doing here from the Cosmopolitan is saying, okay, you're a bad, evil man and you objectify women, and therefore you also are more likely to beat your wife. Now understand, this is not general of the entire population of men. It doesn't happen. And what this article really is sensationalism. But what they're doing here is they are linking those two together. If you are an objectifier, then you're also more likely to hit people. So they're gonna paint that picture in a very dark light and say, you're a bad man because you objectify women, and you have all kinds of problems behind you. But from the same Cosmopolitan article, from the same Cosmopolitan magazine, during the time of the Olympics, 36 of the greatest summer Olympic bulges. Wow. And whenever the picture decides to come up on my screen, you might not want to see it anyway. What it is, it's pictures of all the male crotches of these famous swimmers during the Olympics. And who's objectifying it? Well, it was a female that wrote the article, Lauren Adhay. So what do you see here? From the same news agency, we see male objectification. You see the hypocrisy. So it's only sexism when it's done by a man, right? But if a woman does it, it's called empowerment. No, what it is it's hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy. Everybody does that. You're hardwired to do that. We're going to talk about like body shaming and fat shaming here in a little while as well. Now, body shaming. Yeah, body shaming and physical standards. You got to understand something. When men do have physical standards that is usually indicative of a woman's waist and shape and things like that. The fat shaming or body shaming movement in the Western cultures really shame men when they invoke these standards. Okay? So, if you have standards about women, guys, you're just misogynistic, you're patriarchy, you're the enemy, you're the downfall of human society. But you know what? Guess what? Women have standards too. We see this all over the manosphere today as well, that women demand to have taller men. Taller men. They won't date you unless you're 6 foot and above. They just won't do it. So why is it that a woman can rightfully ask a man how tall you are during a dating conversation, but a man cannot ask a woman's weight? That's body shaming. Oh, you're such a bad human being. Do you see the double standards, guys? Do you see the double standards? And this happens over and over again. Celebrities, they say, celebrity fat shaming affects all women, studies find. Women are just acting like the victim in regards to all of this, when really they just, instead of acting like a victim, maybe you go on a diet. So, fat shaming is just another way to repress men. And even Valerie Bertinelli, from One Day at a Time, for some of you older guys out there who remember One Day at a Time, she recalls being fat shamed by her fifth grade teacher. Now, the article doesn't say if the teacher was a man or a woman. She just says that the teacher came up to her and patted her on her belly and told her, "You better watch that." Well, you know what? Maybe the teacher was more worried about diabetes. Maybe the teacher was worried about about her health. Really? Fat shaming, body shaming? Oh, it's so traumatizing from my childhood. Instead of playing the victim, you need to get yourself to the right standard and move forward. So, men and women do have standards. Men look at weight, women look at height. Women not only look at height, but they also look at your financial portfolio as well. You better believe it. Women out there, they want a sugar daddy. They absolutely want a sugar daddy. So, more on this body shaming. So, the Daily Mail. Mexican gymnast who weighs just 99 pounds is targeted by vicious body shamers in cruel tweets labeling her fat and comparing her to a pig. Here's a picture of her. She only weighs 99 pounds, but I guess the camera just did not do her justice. And so all of these tweets came through saying, "Oh, that's bad. You did that to a woman. You just degraded her and you made her feel bad, and you all you cared about was her weight and how she looked." Well, really? Because from the exact same company, the Daily Mail, we have another one. Do you remember Eric the Eel from the Olympics? Well, now, from the same people that shame you for making light of a woman who has a little bit more layers on her body, we have this article about Robel the whale. Ethiopian swimmer displays a very unathletic paunch to 100 meters. And so they got a picture of him here, and they say, "Oh, he's fat." Yep. Again, you're a horrible man if you say that about a woman, but it's just empowering for women to say that about men. The double standards, the hypocrisy that exists in the feminist mind is insane. It is. Here, let's take a look at this really short video. This is a shout out to Jack Denmo. Shout out to Jack Denmo for all of his. He's got a very entertaining channel on YouTube. Go ahead and check him out. So I edited some of this video to remove the profanity from all of these drunk Canadians that he interviews. But the question that he is interviewing with these women is does height matter? Take a look.
Okay, does height matter?
Yes! Yes! Height?
Yes!
Yes! Okay.
So how important is height in a guy?
I'm short, so not that important. Height matters.
Height matters.
Okay.
So listen to her.
If you're like this tall,
Still above your eyes, okay.
if you're like this tall, like it can work.
It can work out as long as you're above her eyes.
Does height really matter?
I am like 5'8", pushing 5'9". Yes. Okay.
Darren,
Add a
does
little
it
bit of alcohol and the truth comes out. At least 6'2".
Yes. It does matter.
How important is a guy's height?
It's really important. 100%. You have to be this tall to date me, actually.
Yeah, how tall is that in hands?
6'5". Or 6'7".
You don't even know.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Taller than me, it's fine.
Okay, how tall are you?
Oh, it doesn't matter, but
5'3".
taller than me is fine.
Any way you say it, it's gonna sound rude. You know what I mean? To be like,
Well, just tell the truth.
Yeah, just tell the truth.
People want to hear the truth.
People want to hear the truth.
Like I know someone who's like 3'9". She'll find a man.
Personally, I feel like I'd go for tall before short, but I have nothing against it.
yeah, I feel like it's more attractive
They
if they're
feel
taller
like
than you, but like if they're shorter than you,
Taller
you're
is
into them,
better.
like,
They
it
just
happens.
feel that way. Wow, they just feel that way. And the clip goes on and on, so I just took a little bit of those parts. So let's talk about this. Sexist. Wow, is it sexist to have standards? Is it sexist, really? No, it's not sexist. Let's take a look at a couple of things here. The Slate, the Olympic Sexism Watch, wives broadcast delays and swimming like a man. So, that's sexist because they said that this one swimmer, she swims like a man. Oh, you're just so sexist. You're so sexist. And then you compare this next article from the Slate as well. The same. U.S. male gymnasts want to compete topless, and who are we to stop them? Who are we to stop them? Okay, they want to take off their shirts while they're doing all of their flips and everything. Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and let that. One's sexist and one isn't. The The one that makes fun of a woman is what's sexist. The rest, oh yeah, that's socially okay. What a world that we live in. Let's take a look at the idea that we have male oppression in our society. That is, there's a patriarchy out there that men are oppressing females, and we can't allow this to continue on because our society will continue to go down further and further into the abyss. Now, I want you to understand something. Are men oppressors? Are they the oppressors? Now, if you think about it, a lot of the statistics, the studies show through science that women have problems with their finances. They're all looking for a sugar daddy. They're all looking for a way out of their situations, for their racking student debt. And you think about it, more women are graduating colleges than men are, so they are actually racking up more student debt than men are. Their finances are out of control. So females seem to be very self-destructive, so they oppress themselves, really. And another thing is that females, they teach men to be pawns. They try to control them, and they try to test them psychologically, and a lot of times the females don't even know that they're doing these testings within a relationship just to see how men react so they can still continue their love for them. Understand that a woman's love is never a continuous thing. It's always based upon today's tests. So I want you to watch this clip from Jordan Peterson, and he explains it very well against this feminist who's trying to say there's a male patriarchy out there that we have to bring down. No, there isn't. No, there isn't.
I mean, that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Who cares if it's real?
My sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men.
Okay, listen to how he destroys her argument.
A very tiny proportion of men and a huge proportion of people who are
You're going to make this big opinion based upon a small fraction of the population.
Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men.
Yep.
Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like,
yep.
Where's the dominance here precisely?
I love Jordan Peterson.
You're taking a tiny substrata of hyper successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. Terrible things happen to people of both sexes.
And you could say that with perfect utility, but that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated patriarchy. Well, it just means that terrible things happen to both genders, which they certainly do.
But there are almost no women who rape men, for example. So
well, that's not true. There are a lot of
statistics
violence that say that now a lot of men are raped.
There's asymmetry in all sorts of places, but that doesn't mean that Western culture is a male-dominated patriarchy. The fact that there are asymmetries has nothing to do with your basic argument.
No, but you might
This is a trope that people just accept. Western society is a male-dominated patriarchy. It's like, no, it's not.
No, it isn't.
That's not true. And even if it has a patriarchal structure to some degree, the fundamental basis of that structure is not power, it's competence.
Yeah, it is competence.
That's why our society works. It's only when
you think about it,
we're
5,000 years ago, where were we? To where we are now? If that's the patriarchy, then give me more of it.
It's not power. If you hire a plumber who's likely to be male, it's not because there's roving bands of tyrannical plumbers forcing you to make that choice. And it's the case with almost every interaction that you have at the face of our culture. You're dealing with people who are offering a service of one form or another.
Love to see the look on her face.
Who are usually part of the broad middle class.
Wow,
and who
I'm a total moron.
And what you're looking for is the person who can offer the best service. And you can find it. It's not a consequence of being dominated by anything that's tyrannical.
That's right. It's not because of tyranny. It's because of competency. That's just the simple facts. But women just can't seem to accept that. Now, can they?
I mean, that's my...
How about abuse? Let's talk about abuse there just for a moment. There is such thing as, physical abuse, and there's also emotional abuse and different kinds of abuses that happen. So let's take a look at a couple of articles. This one's from the domesticviolencelaw.com. at a study of men or women who usually instigates domestic violence. Now, there's some very, very interesting things here. According to the Center of Disease Control, almost 24% of all relationships experience some level of violence. 50% of domestic violence cases involve mutual violence. In another 50% of domestic violence cases, the violence was non-mutual. In relationships where violence was non-mutual, almost 70% of the violence was perpetrated by the woman. In other words, in almost 7 out of 10 cases of mutual violence, the batterer was a female. Do you hear that, guys? Do you hear that? Because men don't report that. They don't. They get beat up by their woman, and if they tell their friends about it, their friends laugh at them. There are so many videos that are available online of psychology experiments doing one of those things out there in public where a woman is just hitting a man, hitting him over and over again, and everyone just stands around and laughs. But when they reverse the role and she's being verbally abusive and he shoves her, oh man, all of these Captain Save-A-Hos come out of the woodwork in order to help this woman out. We can't have that in our society. We cannot have it. Let's take a look at this from the Independent out of UK News. Domestic violence women statistics. Number of women convicted of domestic violence at record high. More and more women are getting arrested for domestic violence, and I wonder if it has something to do with the way our society is going now. Guys, you know that if your woman is hitting you, you don't want to say anything about it. But at the same time, if you know that your marriage is heading for a divorce because of these problems that you're having, it's in your best interest to start actually recording this data and getting it out there, to getting reports from the police to the police officers so that you can start building the case against this woman who's abusing you. 70%. Oh yeah, let's just ignore all of that, right? Let's just ignore all of that. So that article actually has the number of female abusers that are convicted every year, and it keeps going up and up and up. I think the problem really is getting worse over the years. So there is also emotional abuse. Take a look at these two articles. This is from PsychCentral.com. The invisible victims when men are abused. Men are abused. Here we go. Come on. There we go. Examples of the way women perpetrate emotional abuse include extreme mood swings. Oh yeah, that's never happened, right? That's never happened. Constant anger or displeasure. You know, there's the old saying that says, happy wife, happy life. That is a lie. Lie. Withholding sex, name-calling, public humiliation, all of which women are very good at doing. Women rarely inflict physical abuse in the same manner as men. However, it can still happen. Examples of the way women perpetrate physical abuse include harming pets, destroying your possessions. Oh yeah, get your key card, your car keyed. Blah. They also bite. They also spit. They strike out with their fists and their feet. This is just some of the ways that they become very abusive. And it's very interesting how psychology is beginning to actually recognize this and study this. I'm really glad to hear that. There's also the Good Men Project. This is from their site, the Good Men Project. Women abuse men too, but it's often not called abuse. We just name it something else. You know what I mean? According to a British survey, Domestic Violence, the Male Perspective, concluded in 2010, about 2 in 5 of all victims of domestic violence are men. Now, these are just the ones that get reported. You got to understand that. Contradicting the widespread impression that it is almost always women who are left battered and bruised, the new report claims. Men assaulted by their partner are often ignored by police, see their attacker go free, and have far fewer refugees to flee to than women. Now, that's a very important detail. Here in the United States, we only have one shelter for battered men. And it's in the state of California, interestingly enough. But there are over 3,000 for women. You see the hypocrisy, you see the disparagingness of this. The data does not support the female imperative. It just doesn't. Or the feminist imperative. It does not support it at all. So, really, are we equal? You know, let's take a look. Suicides, they're not equal. Suicides increase as the pressure of male... This is from Dr. Warren Farrell, by the way. In his book, it's perfectly cited. You can see it on the video of this podcast. Suicides increase as the pressure of male role and hormones increase. Before puberty, the suicide rates among males and females are about equal. However, between 10 and 14, boys commit suicide at almost twice the rate of girls. Right? Daddy's little girl. She gets everything that she wants. Between 15 and 19, boys commit suicide at 4 times the rate of girls. And between 20 and 24, the rate of male suicide is between 5 and 6 times that of females. It's just insane. It's insane. So we're not equal in stress either. In stress, you know, suicide is brought about by the stress that is in our lives. Dr. Warren Farrell also talks about that. He cites a LA Times article in regards to it. He says, "Is this because females are inherently better at handling stress? Perhaps not. When men and women are exposed to similar pressures to perform," and that's key right there, guys. When men and women are exposed to similar pressures to perform, as among men and women in the military, the female suicide rate soars almost as high as the male rate. So all of a sudden, you tell a woman that she actually does have to do the same job as a man, and the suicide rate goes up. We're not equal. We are not equal. It's probably not even exactly the same job, it's just that she has to have more responsibility. Men are also, crime is not equal. Men are more likely to receive a harsher sentence for doing the same crime that a woman will do. But Dr. Warren Farrell also says this in his book. Might the 700% increase in the 93% male prison population in the last half century mean that the way we are raising our sons in the last half century is leading to a deterioration of their mental health? Yes. Yes. We're going to raise these kids by single moms and to become soy boys instead of being men who can accept and take responsibility and work through the hardships of their life. We're not equal. We are not equal. Workforce is not equal. Dr. Farrell again. Every day, 150 workers die from hazardous working conditions, and 92% of them are male. It's all cited in his book. The less formal education and more children your son has, the more likely he is to feel he'll help his family live a better life by risking his own life working in what might be called the death professions. Yes, men will take those risks in order to raise their children, in order to provide and protect their families. They will take that risk. Is there equality in this? No, because you don't see females lining up for all of that, all of those death professions as well. No, you don't see it. There's no equality there. It's a total hypocrisy from feminism. Again, hypocrisy. Physical fitness is not equal either. Now, men and women have similar mortality rates with prostate and breast cancer. Yet breast cancer research spending is 6 times higher. Why? Because they're women. And that's not equal. More scholarships are given to girls than boys. So the future really is female. It's not for guys, and that's not equal. And you don't see people out there marching in regards to it. Women are deemed more important. Men should realize this, and they should adapt to their unfair environment that they are placed in. Survival, guys, survival should always be in the forefront of your mind. Let's take a look at a couple things here. Dr. Farrell writes about bigorexia. You've heard about bulimia and anorexia and these things that that supposedly harm girls. Well, men suffer from this condition that's called bigorexia. Huh, you never heard of it before? Yeah, because it's happening to men. And bigorexia is far more complicated. If your son is preoccupied with body image, he's also more vulnerable to binge drinking and to overuse in drugs. Now, the rate of obesity among adolescent girls, that has stabilized. The rate of our sons, they're increasing. There is this major problem that is happening more to boys than it is to girls, but because it's happening to boys, society does not care. You got that? Aside from their physical health, this damages both our sons' psychological security and our nation's global security. A third of young men are not fit for military service owing to obesity and other physical and mental problems. What's going to happen to our country? What is going to happen to our country? Education. Are we equal in education? No. Again, Dr. Farrell, in the United States, by 8th grade, 41% of the girls are at least proficient in writing, while only 20% of boys are. Where are we going in this world? How about finances? Oh, there's a wage gap out there. Women get paid less. Well, you know what? If women are cheaper, then why aren't companies just hiring all women and firing the men? Something for you to think about. There is no wage gap. People choose to take time off to handle family affairs. And men choose to work more in order to provide for those same family affairs. Where are we going with this? There is a hypocrisy of feminism. And men are losing the battle. But guys, we can band ourselves together. We can do it. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.